And I kept looking, I couldn't find what was wrong
In
with
other
it.
words,
Well, they finally dug in the ground. And when it did, well, then I found it. So,
it don't have one of them half moon collars in it, does it?
well, no, it's just a regular pin, and you put like a snap ring or something like that on it, And well,
I
the
got you.
snap ring had broke, I guess,
Got rusty.
and the pin fell out. Well, ain't no way I'm gonna find it out there because they done covered it up.
Ah.
So, so I thought, well, I'll just have to
Is
go and
your
see if I
fire
can
still
find it.
going? That makes about the 6th day, don't it?
Yeah, well, I just set that one earlier.
Well, ain't the same one.
No, I shouldn't have because they got a burn ban on right now. So
They do.
yeah, I probably shouldn't have said it, but yeah, they got a burn ban on right now.
You care if I ask you a couple questions about what we was talking about the other night?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd rather not reveal a whole lot of names because I am recording this. I know that whenever we come down here, you and Danny, y'all hit it off pretty good. And do you by chance remember that body shop that we had? Dad was working at the dealership over there. Dad and Danny was working at the dealership over there at Milan, and something went on. I don't know what went on. Anyways, that's whenever he decided to start taking vehicles over here and renting out Harry and Herman's garage over there and start doing body work over there. Remember that?
Yeah,
And
yeah, because I used to haul cars in for 'em.
yeah,
Me and Danny would go after cars and stuff at Milan or
yeah,
somewhere. I don't
Milan,
remember where,
Milan,
and we'd bring them back to here.
right. What year you figure that was in?
Oh, that would have had to have been. See, I wasn't married at the time, so that would have had to have been either late '60s or early '70s. I'm talking like 70, 71, something
Right,
like that.
right. Way before my brother got killed there in Sidonia.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Way
they were
before
way
that.
Before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, Dad's dad, which was Kelmer, he died in 1969, and that's whenever I started seeing a difference in my father towards changing his whole disposition from the time Kelmer died, because he didn't have nobody to rule over him.
Yeah.
Bobby
I
did.
never did know him.
Bobby didn't.
I never did know Kelmer.
You never did know him at
I
all?
never did know him.
Really? Um,
Only ones I can remember is like Bobby and your mother.
yeah.
Uh, other than that, I didn't really
Do you
know.
remember John Lean?
John Lane Dorster?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Married a land,
yeah,
done hair,
uh-huh,
fixed hair.
yeah.
Mom got her hair done every week up there.
Yeah, I knew.
Every week
I
she got
knew
her hair
her.
done.
Of course,
And-
actually, that house we bought, they was living in.
Yeah,
And we bought, me and Chris bought that house
yeah.
and moved in it. And then I bought the one that Carlene's living in now.
If I'm not mistaken, that was probably about the same time whenever Maxie was living up there, married to Louise, around that corner. I know you remember Maxie and Leon and Margaret. Leon and Margaret owned that piece of property right there where the old Lim store used to be.
Who?
Leon Margaret. Leon Jackson, which would have been Kelmer Jackson's brother. He drank a lot.
Don't ring a bell for some reason. I remember when the old Penn store used to be there.
Do you?
Because my Aunt Jenny, that was her mother, I think. Mrs. Penn and all that owned and operated that store back then.
The old Lim store down here?
Well, they always call it Penn store. The one right across from where that block
No,
building
that
is
was
now.
Lim store. Lim.
Was it Liam's?
Yes, sir.
I thought
Lim.
it was Penn's.
Penn store was up there in Sharon.
Well, maybe it was Liam's.
And the reason, did you ever know the reason why they called it Lim store? Leon brought that out in a autobiography. The reason why they called it Lim store was because they didn't have no other name to name it, because my grandpa had done already hung so many people off the tree limbs out there, they just started calling it limb store.
I always thought it was called pen store.
I know you knew about the hangings and stuff that went on down in here.
There was a lot of them done there in Sidonia and between Sidonia and Hoffman. There were a lot of hangings that was done back then.
And
back years ago.
And it wasn't right, was it?
No, a lot of them wasn't.
A lot of them wasn't.
I ain't gonna say they all wasn't, but you know, most of them wasn't, because most of them would hang you for little or nothing, you know. And,
if you even touched a white female or flirted with a white female, that's all a black man had to do at that point in time, and he was gone.
And they'd get home.
He'd get home.
So,
of course, that was back during the day that they were still hanging people from stealing horses.
yeah.
You know. Of course, that led up until the early 1900s, and it wasn't until after World War I come and gone is whenever America decided to clean up its act a little bit and quit having those open public hangings, because they figured out that it was bringing in a lot of the wrong crowd. You know, people wanted to be there for the action, just to watch somebody dangle from a rope. And that's whenever they changed the court system in having a jury and a judge, a 12-man jury, and that's whenever we started building on the system that we have now.
Yeah.
Now, before that system, they was doing it the old way.
Yeah, there wasn't no system then.
Well, there was the old system.
Well, it was the old system, but there wasn't no system. I mean, if like the sheriff or judge or whatever says you're gonna hang, you're gonna hang. It don't matter what anybody else says.
I wonder how many innocent people died back then.
Oh, ain't no telling. Ain't no telling. And,
but you
they had a tree. I don't think the tree is still there, but there was a tree right behind the stores there.
On what side? Tonkin Elliott side or the
Tonkin Elliott side?
Okay.
There was a tree
over there by the
over there.
Where the telephone thing is.
Yeah, it was about where the old telephone office was at.
Okay.
And that's where they done all their hangings at. I remember that when I wasn't 4 or 5 years old.
Really?
I guess.
Was they doing hangings then?
They were doing hangings then.
They were. And what year was you born?
55. And that would have been in the late 50s. Yeah, late 50s. Probably. And they were still doing hangings then.
Well, Sidonia School was still going too.
Yeah.
You went to Sidonia School, right?
No, I missed it by a year. Instead of going to Sidonia School, I went ahead and come up here to Sharon, and then they closed the Sidonia School the following year.
I think they closed the school down in Sidonia in was it 66 or 67? Same year we moved down here.
It would have been in, let's see, 55, 56. It had to have been around 50. It would have had to have been around 1960.
Okay. Whenever they closed Sidonia School down.
Yeah.
Of course, you remember the original Old Baptist Church right there beside the school that burnt.
Yeah.
Remember whenever it burnt? I think it was in the early 70s. Whenever it caught fire, I think Mr. Freeman.
Lewis, not Lewis. No, maybe his name was Lewis Jones. He got killed in that.
I didn't know that.
He opened the door, and when he opened the door, it exploded and killed him.
I didn't know that. I knew somebody I knew somebody got burnt real bad, but I didn't know they got killed.
Yeah, I think his name was Lewis. I know he was a Jones.
But anyways, we talked about Dad being up there in that body shop.
Hold on a minute. Let me go grab another beer right
All right. We talked about Dad being so mean, and you even agreed with me that he was mean. He'd fly off the bat.
And he was always as nice to me as he could be.
Well, he knew how far to go with
He
people.
never
He
he
knew.
never said the first cross word
He
to
never.
me.
He knew how far to go with other people,
And,
other people's children.
he
But now
he
his
was
own.
always nice as he could be with me.
But
But now when it come to Danny, if Danny didn't do what he said, all hell'd break loose now. I mean, it was,
and we wasn't just talking about verbally, was we?
no, he'd beat the shit out of him.
I know.
Right there at the store.
In front of God and everybody. Done Douglas that way. Done me that way. Done David that way.
Yeah, he was bad about that. Now, as far as me, I could go up there, and I believe I could have done anything, and he'd have never said a word.
Well, there was a
And,
couple of them he got frisky with. I think Harold Roberts was one of them. Harold Roberts threatened to run him over with a tractor if he thought that he was. I think Harold said something like, "Well, if you think you're gonna do me the way you do your children, Bob, I'll just run you over with this damn tractor." Because one time he jerked Danny off a tractor while the tractor was moving, beat the hell out of him, and then got on to him about running the tractor down and keep the tractor from going off into the ditch or the woods over there. I mean, he'd absolutely lose his mind. He would fly off the hinges like that and just
You
become
remember,
very violent.
You remember old Kyle Avery?
Yeah.
He used to be that way. Robert Avery, that was his son.
Okay.
They owned that little service station, not Tompkins there, but the next one down.
Right.
He owned a little service station right there. Well, he had a couple of pool tables in there.
Okay.
We played pool.
Yeah.
Like that. Well, Robert come in there one day, and that was his son, and he said something other to him, and he picked up a cue ball of that and throwed it, and it hit him right square in the head.
Oh man.
And Robert never was
all there to begin
all
with.
there after that. It messed his brain up.
Yeah.
Whenever he done it. And,
Wow. Well.
Yeah, Kyle was something else.
Well,
Kyle used to live. You know where my house is at?
Yeah.
Well, you remember? You know where that? It's not a log house, but it's
I know what you're talking about.
the next road, Wilson Road. There,
Wilson Road.
And you turn there, and the first house on the right.
Yeah.
That's where Kyle and them lived. Back years ago. And Kyle was of course, Kyle had problems. See, he had brain surgery a couple times.
Was he in the military?
I don't know.
A lot of those guys that was in the military, it messed them up,
But he had brain surgery a couple
But
of times.
but my question is this. How about all the people around there that didn't have post-traumatic stress disorder? How come they let those guys do whatever that they wanted to do to their children around there? How come there wasn't no law or no discipline down there? Was they scared of those people? Because I asked Cheryl, you remember Cheryl?
Yeah.
Cheryl White, that was married to Ed White.
Yeah.
Whenever I first come back here, I called her up one day and said, Cheryl, how come y'all didn't speak up against that stuff? And first...
But I can't never remember ever being I don't ever remember a cop even coming to side on you.
Exactly.
Of any kind.
Even down there, Dan Simmons.
Yeah, Dan
Even
Simmons.
down there, Hop In.
Every once in a while, O'Brien County would come in to Dan Simmons.
Well, you keep in mind also the roads was not good back then. The automobiles wasn't good back then. I mean, that was hard times back then. That's kind of like Bill Ramsey. He would transfer cows from one side of the road to the other side because where his milking stuff was over next to the house.
Yeah.
Well, back then people didn't drive but about 35, 40 miles an hour on the roads because the roads wasn't decent enough. Well, if you try to do that now, send a herd of 150 cows across the road with everybody being in such of a hurry today doing 60 or 70 miles an hour on them roads, well, you'd have a bunch of dead cows.
Yeah.
You'd have a bunch of dead cows. In other words, people wouldn't put up with it.
Yeah.
Because they just drive like idiots now. They drive 100 miles an hour on these side roads. And you know it's to be true. But you got to keep in mind that was a whole different time zone back then.
It was.
But even though it was a different time zone, how come the whites, how come other people didn't speak up whenever they seen that type of abuse that's going on.
I don't.
It was socially accepted, wasn't it?
I guess because you never seen a cop.
It was
You
socially
never seen
accepted.
the sheriff's office.
It was
or
socially
you didn't
accepted.
See nothing that ever come around side on your hop in itself. For when O'Brien County, every once in a while, maybe once in a year, once in every 2 years, they'd come down, arrest Dan, and for bootlegging and stuff like that.
Right, right.
He'd stay in jail one day and he'd get out.
Right.
And go right back to just like it was.
That's right. That's right.
And I mean, nothing ever was done.
I was talking to a fellow the other day over here, and he remembered whenever there was a killing or two down there. Hop in at Dan Simmons's.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever know about a killing or two down there?
I know of several that got thrown in that washout.
Really?
Yeah, back years ago.
Back in the 60s.
Yeah, back in the late 60s, early 70s. And I know of several people that got thrown in the washout. Of course, back then the washout was deep.
Yeah.
And I've known several people and all go in Dan's down there. And of course, Dan had everything. He had prostitutes, he had gambling stuff, and I mean, just everything went on there at Dan's.
I didn't know all about the prostitutes until just a few years ago.
Yeah,
but I knew that any and everything else
there,
went.
I used to go in there where my house is at. I used to ride my bicycle from there down to Dan Simmons's joint down there when I was 10-year old. And of course, Sue and Dan both, would let me in and stuff, and I'd play around with all the prostitutes and all this stuff, and all at 10-year-old.
Wow.
And
you wasn't drinking in there, was
no,
you?
I wasn't drinking or nothing, but I just and Sue treated me just like I was her own kid.
But Sue, you didn't want to fight Sue, did you?
No, Sue would kill you. Sue would absolutely.
Who was she
kill you.
before she got married?
She was a
Dorch?
Oh, shoot. I can't remember. I can remember her sister, and I can't remember what their maiden name was. Her sister was married to Jerry Adams.
You said you was born what, in 56?
55.
55? So in 1965, you at the age of 10, that was a year before we come down here, you was going down to Dan Simmons's and playing pool and playing around with the big guys.
And playing with all the women and stuff in there. And Sue would watch after me. If anybody started complaining about me or anything, Sue would step in.
Would she?
And I mean, she treated me just like I was a son of hers.
And I have done a lot of study on this area right here, and one of the things I've deciphered is what made people be so prejudiced around here was Nathan Bedford Forrest, because it was basically Nathan Bedford Forrest that basically founded Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
Now Nathan Bedford Forrest on his deathbed renounced it and said that he regretted that he ever got associated with that, because God only knows how much blood that he had on his hands. I mean, it's one thing to be in a military group and kill people, but it's another thing just to deliberately get your thrills off towards killing people just to be killing them. And that's basically what was going on back then. Back in the late 1800s.
Dan and Sue, like I said, Sue always treated me just like I was a son.
There was another Simmons.
But Dan and Sue would kill you deader than a hammer.
That's probably the reason why some of them wound up down in that slough, you know it?
They would kill you deader than a hammer.
That's probably,
acted up.
That was probably the ones that was doing the killing down there, putting them in the slough.
It might have been. I don't know.
I just imagine.
But, I mean, yeah.
But there was another Simmons. There was another Simmons that owned another store after you go to Hop In, like going to Reeves.
Yeah.
After you go over the bridge, right there where the old hunting club used to be.
Yeah.
You go around that next corner, that sharp corner to the left, and you got a little straight shot right there before you ever get down there. Where the Turner place used to be down there.
Yeah.
But there used to be a store right there on the right.
Yeah. I just barely can remember that store.
But it was a Simmons that owned that or run that.
I don't know who owned it.
There was a lot of hangings that went on down there in that place. Dad said that he remembered. Of course, he was born 1920, I think 26, so he remembers a whole lot more than you do. And he remembered back whenever they was hanging people that they hung a black boy down there, right there off the bank of Obion River, and said they just kept his body hanging there for about a month before his carcass finally fell off.
Well, you know what's his name that used to live there on the bank of the river?
Grady Harden.
Grady Harden. I ain't no telling how many people he has killed and left down there in the bottom.
Why?
Back years ago. I'm talking years ago.
Why?
I don't know.
He was just that rootless?
He had a little old shack. He had a little old
I know.
shack.
I remember the shack.
That's it, right there on the bank of the river.
On stilts.
Yeah, it was on stilts and everything. And old Grady was something else now.
I didn't know that.
He was something else.
Well, did he ever have children?
Yeah, because he had a grandson that was pretty close to my age. Of course, he got killed. He used to go down there on Mud Creek. His son would. Of course, he was bare. He didn't wear shoes and stuff. He went barefooted all the time.
Yeah,
everywhere.
wore coveralls.
And he would go down there on Mud Creek. He'd see a cottonmouth laying on the bank.
Yeah.
And he'd go down there and he'd catch that cottonmouth. And I kept telling him, I said, one of these days you're going to get killed by these snake bites.
Well, what killed him?
In a car wreck. He got killed in a car wreck.
All right. The first year that we come down here was in '66. That fall, we would drive an old Rambler, or something like a Rambler, where you had to mash the gas about halfway to get the starter to start working, and then once it cranked up, you put it in gear by mashing a button on the dash.
Yeah.
Do you remember those kind of cars?
Yeah.
Well, I was trick-or-treating at the time. David was in the back seat, and we had just got through coming through Sidonia going to Sharon, right there where that little dip is, and Mama was, I was heading to a house, and I just got through getting back in the car, shutting the door, and I'll be darned if a drunk didn't hit us. And I mean, it freaking just, it bowed that freaking old car that we was in all to pieces. And of course, the car that hit us, it tore it all to pieces.
Yeah.
I never did know who that was.
Well, you remember when Teresa got killed?
Yeah.
They're on the hill there,
Yeah.
right in front of
Coble's.
Tom
Coble.
Coble's house there.
Right.
The guy that hit him, gosh, I was trying to think of his name.
Who was that? C.T. Brooks that lived right there beside Mr. Coble?
No, C.T. and them lived over by,
Down there by the,
you turn and go past Alamo Church.
that's right.
Like you're going, but
That's right. I remember now. Yeah.
No,
C.T. had a twin brother.
Yeah.
C.T. had a twin brother.
Yeah.
They're both dead now.
Yeah, they're both dead.
Yeah.
Of course, his twin brother died back, gosh, years before
Oh
CT
yeah.
did.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And he was, I don't know, he was.
But
awful.
you never hear nothing about the Brookses, did you?
No, you never did.
How about the Jacobses? Never did hear much about the Jacobses,
No,
did you?
Never did hear nothing about them. And
Who else did you know back down there? The Ramseys?
I knew the Ramseys. I knew the Simmonses.
The Hills?
Yeah.
You
I
knew
the
Paul Hill?
Hills. I knew Paul Hill and all them.
How about David
the
Nelson?
ones that lived down there between Hoppin and Reeves, he was a Hill. I can't remember.
How about
what his
David
name
Nelson?
was.
You remember David Nelson, his dad?
Yeah, me and David was same age.
Yeah.
And of course, I knew Wayne.
Yeah,
Nelson.
Wayne, his dad.
And
He was a good carpenter.
yeah. But yeah, I knew all them. Of course, I knew Hayden McElwright and all them. And
Hayden was a big guy. Where was he from? He had long arms, went plumb down
I don't know,
below
but
his
he
knees.
was a humongous guy.
Big hands, huh?
He was big. And
You know, Barnett.
He was tall, and he was built I mean, just
I wonder where his family was originally from.
I don't know. I think they're buried. I think they're buried there
Oh, they're
at
buried in
Alamo.
Alamo. Yeah, I know where they're buried at. Yeah, I know
But
exactly.
yeah, he was a big man.
McClanahan. How well did you know
I knew
McClanahan?
McClanahan's. Uh, I knew Sarah and James and all them because they was all. They were a little older than me.
Somebody told me that Bobby Rudd's still living.
I don't know. I ain't seen him in years.
Yeah, somebody told me that he's still living.
I don't
Of
know.
course, Johnny Mack wound up marrying Sarah again.
Who?
Sarah Rudd. She was
I mean, who married him?
Johnny Mack Warren. Bill Warren's brother. Bill Warren had the junkyard down there, hop in. I know you remember Bill.
Yeah, I know Bill because I used to work for him.
Bill just died.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, about a year ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Almost 100 years old.
No, I didn't know that.
He buried up there at Greenfield.
Because he used to show me how to rebuild starters on cars.
Well, that was just about time whenever the Sweats come down. Remember T.C. Sweat?
Yeah, that was before Sweat and them come down.
Yeah, before Sweat and him come down. But you remember T.C. Sweat?
Yeah. Yeah.
T.C. had a
And
junkyard.
May, of course, I worked with May for several years.
At Goodyear?
Yeah, at Goodyear.
Did you? You worked beside her?
Well, I worked around her. I never did work beside her, but I worked around her, you know.
Yeah.
And,
Well, Ray White also worked down there, and Rex Harrison worked down there.
yeah, Rex worked.
David
down there.
Nelson worked down there.
Of course, we all worked down there because I knew David and Rex and all that and stuff. And May worked down there. Now, May, you didn't want to fool with.
She was another one you didn't want to fool with.
Yeah,
She
you
was
didn't want to fool with. 'Cause
she was another
she'd hurt you.
she was
She'd
another
hurt
Sue Simmons.
yeah, she would hurt you.
Well, she pulled a gun. She pulled a gun on my dad and discharged it while we were sitting there in the yard because Dad said something about Fat Boy. You remember Fat Boy? Fat Boy had worked for us all week, and Dad gave him some money. Following next Monday, Fat Boy was broke, and Dad said, "Well, how come you broke for it?" He said, "Well, Mama done taking all my money." So Dad gets in the vehicle, drives down there, and gets on to her, and she pulls out a dang gum gun and pops a shot right over his head, and she goes, "Bobby, let me tell you something. This gun's going to be a little bit lower next time I pull the trigger, but you're not coming down here telling me how to run and how to raise my children."
Yeah. Oh, May was something else. She was mean. May was. When I worked with her down there at Goodyear, whatever she said, you better take.
How about Mabel? Remember Mabel? Hillary? Pinnock? Hillary Pinnock and Mabel?
Yeah, I know. Hillary Painted
Hillary, yeah,
lived in the house trailer
right.
down there.
And Mabel.
I don't remember.
She was an older woman. I think, if I'm not mistaken, she was sisters to the school teacher up here in Martin, Zodabale. Remember Zodabale?
Yeah,
Did you ever get taught under Zodabale?
yeah. I had a class under her.
You did.
Yeah.
Was it science class?
Yeah.
Did she always pull out a frog early in the morning
She'd pull out
and
a
squeeze the frog?
and say, listen to this frog talk. And she'd squeeze that frog. She'd squeeze that frog. And of course, that thing would go to croaking and all that stuff. Said, listen to this frog talking to y'all. And of course, then I knew she was crazier than a freaking bat. So,
Was she really crazy?
I don't know.
Was she really crazy? You know, whenever she wound up dying, she gave Union University almost $2 million
Really?
off of her
Old
estate.
Zorabelle. I hadn't thought about her. in years.
Zorabelle had all that. Him and her husband had all that ground over there that UTM wanted. UTM gave her a handsome price for all that stuff. She wound up having.
I hadn't thought about
She
her.
wound up having 3 or 4 houses down there, plus rental properties and stuff. I was hired by the Union University to go down and cleaning up her estate whenever she died. And I'll never forget it. The day that she died, they done already had to sell, and some of that furniture was selling probably $15,000 because it was that real antique stuff that had the big feet on it,
Yeah.
going, I guess, back into the European days, probably the 1200, 1400, whatever. And
Gosh, I hadn't
and
thought
her
about
daughter that married a doctor up there at Nashville come down with an attorney, 2 attorneys, and the sheriff come down. I guess it was, I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking that it was Mike Wilson. But sheriff come down, and they opened the will up. And as they were reading off the will, that attorney reached in his pocket and was talking to Miss Zorbell's daughter. She said, "Well, your mother didn't leave you out of the will. She left you $1."
Yeah.
And whenever she done that, she almost fainted. And then there was fixing to be a fight. And then basically me and Mom, we left. But I've never seen nobody do nobody that way. But something happened to her and her daughter years ago.
Well,
And they got on they wasn't on the speaking terms, and they never did make it up on the last. She come to my bedside in 1983 after that car almost killed me, and I hadn't been in there but a couple of days because Miss Zorbell was kin to us. She come down there at the house all the time at one time.
Oh, she was kin to y'all?
Yes, somehow or another, because we was kin to Marvin Alexander. Everybody around here was kin to somebody toward marrying somebody. That's the reason why they called it Scrounge Horn community. You know what I'm saying? But she come to my hospital. She said, "Dennis, there's no doubt God saved your life because you should be dead right now." I said, "Miss Zorbell, I'm aware of that." She goes, "Well, now it's up to you to find out why God saved your life." And she turned around. She walked out. Like I said, she tutored David and helped David get his GED before she wound up dying. But I wound up cleaning up her estate down there, and my God, it was one of the most dirtiest places that I think I've ever laid my eyes on.
Yeah, she wasn't no clean.
She was a mouser. She was she would collect everything, anything. It didn't matter if it's newspaper, it didn't matter if it's a box of matchstick, it didn't matter anything. She'd collect it. Yeah. And basically, whenever you got around in her house, she basically died. She died of infestation of fleas and stuff. Her house was infestated. She died of shingles. She died of shingles. She died of shingles. Have you ever heard of anybody dying of shingles?
Yeah. No, I ain't never heard of that.
Well, it's a painful death.
Man, I hadn't thought about Zorbell.
If shingles ever starts around your waist and goes all the way around, it'll kill you.
I never thought about.
And that's
Zorbell.
what she died of.
Yeah, she was my science and biology teacher.
But do you know why she done the frog thing? Have you ever put any thought into that? And why would she have ever done that?
No, I never did really think of it. But I thought she was crazy. So,
she was trying to break the ice.
I thought she was always crazy.
She was trying to break the ice with the students.
In the house that she lived
If she could get everybody to laugh, if she could get everybody's attention and get everybody to laugh, even though it may not have been for 15 seconds, that kind of done everybody like, it took the tension off everybody.
But you know,
and in her mind's eye, she felt like that once she broke that tension and got your attention, she could teach you. You would listen to her.
Yeah. But you know that house she used to live in?
Yeah.
It looked like the sun was going to fall down any day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was trashy.
Yes.
It was in pitiful shape.
Yes.
Where she lived at.
Yes. Her and her husband both. But whenever they started selling all that property, UTM, that's whenever they moved up in the world. And that's whenever matter of fact, he was a Mason and she was an Eastern Star there towards the last. They done got enough influence.
And she always kept her, you remember her always keeping her tongue stuck out?
Yeah.
Always kept her tongue stuck out.
I don't know why. that probably had, that had to be with some sort of.
I don't know, but she always, even during class and stuff, she'd keep her tongue stuck out.
Yeah, she may have had some sort of a polio or something like that when she was a child growing up or something that caused that.
But yeah, we'd have class and stuff. She'd come in, she'd have that tongue stuck out.
How many?
And we put soap one time, and she had to have coffee every morning before we ever started class. I had first period class with her, and she had to have coffee every morning. Somebody slipped a bar of soap in her coffee pot. And when she went to making coffee...
Pulling a prank.
Oh, yeah, pulling a prank. Man, suds went to going everywhere. And she went to hopping and running around, that tongue sticking out, and we never laughed so much in our life. And
How about Miss Myrick up here in Sharon? Did you ever know her?
Well, she taught my kids. I never did have her.
Was
in
she the
anything.
one that would act like that she was paddling you, and that would slap the side of the wall and act like that she was paddling you, and then she'd tell you, now whenever you go back in there, you tell everybody how bad it hurt, because yeah, she never would hit the children. She never would paddle the children. Back then, they wore your ass out, didn't they?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, back then, if you got a whooping and all, you got one.
Yes, sir.
Mildred Chandler. I don't know if you remember her or not. She used to teach 8th grade English, I think.
I don't remember her. I remember the name.
Anyway, she drove a little Volkswagen.
I remember the name.
She drove a little Volkswagen. You remember all them little posts that used to be in front of Sharon School? You know, that went around the driveway?
Yeah.
Me and some more guys put her little Volkswagen up on them posts. And so when she got ready to go home that afternoon, she couldn't go nowhere.
Right.
Because her tires wasn't touching the ground.
Right.
So,
And the car's so light, it probably didn't take you but, what, 6 or 8 of you to pick it up.
It didn't take many of us to pick it up.
Yeah.
And you talking about getting an ass whooping.
Oh, really?
Buddy, we got one that next day. Oh, man. She wore that paddle out on us, boy.
Whoa.
And,
She let you know real quick. She didn't appreciate that.
yeah.
But anyways, getting back to my dad, was you ever down there at the farm helping down there, playing in that big pond down there that my grandpa built that had that diving board and all down there? You remember that big pond down there?
No, I don't remember it.
Right there in behind the barn.
I never did get really going with your dad until I was, gosh, probably 15. I was probably 15 years old.
Yeah.
And that was when me and Danny started
Buddying up.
and doing things together.
Who was Douglas buddying up with at that time? I think it was Reuben, wasn't it? Roger Hill and Reuben?
It might have been.
Billy Turner?
I don't remember.
You remember young Billy Turner?
Yeah, I remember Billy. I don't remember who he was buddying up with.
Well, Douglas.
Of course, Douglas used to go with me and Danny a lot.
Yeah, but Douglas also dated Teresa.
Yeah.
They was sweet on one another before she got killed.
Yeah.
She got killed in 1972. I think it was 72. It may have been 71.
I don't remember when she got killed. I remember when it happened because I went down there.
Yeah, that was a bad deal for the whole community, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure was. Of course, I was a pallbearer for Teresa.
Was you? Of course, that was a bad deal when my brother got killed right there in Sidonia, wasn't it?
Yeah, it sure was. That was a big ordeal.
That was a big ordeal.
Yeah, man, it caused a bunch of havoc, boy. I mean, because everybody.
Did you ever know Billy Mosley?
I never did really know him.
Did you know the other?
I knew Henry.
You knew Henry?
But his brother is the one that, Douglas run into.
Right.
Or vice versa, however it happened.
Right.
I don't know how it happened.
Well, the tractor run in front of Douglas.
And, gosh, they was going to kill him.
Billy.
The Mosley guy.
Yeah.
They were going to kill him.
Yeah.
And
So the Sidonia bunch.
Yeah. Sidonia
That was
bunch.
whenever Marvin and Sis was running the place up there.
But yeah, I mean, they were going to kill Mosley. And
Well, you know what?
I don't know whose fault it was.
It was Billy's fault, but
or what happened.
but that was so traumatic in his life that it basically caused him to have a nervous breakdown, and he never was right after that.
Yeah. I remember Henry. Henry was saying something about a few years after that his
It affected
brother
him.
and all. It affected him so that
It affected him.
He
Hey there.
never was
Howdy.
right after that.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Me too.
We're just talking.
Are you about ready to go to Martin?
Not yet. I got to throw my stuff away.
We got
Got to
a
give her
little
time to breathe.
Yeah.
Got to give her time to breathe a little bit. But yeah, it was different back then. But it was almost like a lawless society, like you said. Even whenever Lewis Taylor was sheriff, he didn't stay sheriff but long.
No, he was there for what, one term? He was there what,
I don't even think he stayed there a whole
2
term.
year or 4 year? I don't remember.
He didn't stay there a whole term.
Yeah.
Once he found out what was going on.
I think he stayed there a whole term, but it wasn't. But I don't know. I don't remember what the term was. If it was 2 year or 4 years that he stayed. And
well, he
of course,
quit.
after that, well, then Mike Wilson beat him out of it.
Yeah.
You know, and then Mike was sheriff from then on.
Yeah, old Lewis Taylor, he was a big old boy too, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he was a big guy. He was a great big guy. Gosh, he'd stand probably 6'6" and weigh 250, 270 pounds. He was a big guy.
Uh-huh.
And his wife was a little bitty thing.
And that's the one
That's the one that
yeah,
Sheila goes to
yeah,
see.
right.
She was a little bitty thing.
Boy, I tell you what, there's a lot of water passed on her bridge, ain't it?
Yeah. A lot of things that, I don't know, if you compare it now to what used to be years ago, there is so much difference.
Oh, it ain't
Ain't even close, you know, to what the things that's happening now.
If the kids today was to try to get away with the stuff they're doing today, back then,
oh, they'd have been killed. There ain't no doubt about it. I mean, they would have. I mean, that just didn't happen. And you didn't do it. And,
there was law and order. Even if it was among the families or among the parents. I mean.
yeah, I mean, it was something else.
Matter of fact, if you was over at one parent's house, you liable to get your tail whipped. Even though that wasn't your mom and dad, because you got into it over there at their house, or vice versa. If their child was over at this other kid's house, they liable to get their tail whipped.
Yeah, you know what was so bad?
Back then it was open, wasn't it?
Yeah, back then, if you got in trouble, just say at your neighbor's house, if you got in an argument with their
Mischievousness,
kids or whatever,
right.
mischievous or whatever, and they got on you, when you got home, you fixed to get an ass whooping.
Yeah.
Just because you was over there causing havoc.
Yeah.
With them.
Yeah.
And you'd get an ass whooping.
You know, I was over there in Walmart over at Camden last night, and I was wanting to go back there where all the flowers and stuff was, and it was locked. And finally one of the guys come in. I said, "You mind unlocking this? I just want to look and see what you got back there with your greenery and stuff." I go, by the way, I go, "How come you keep this locked?" He said, "Because the kids." He said the kids get back here and get to playing, and they'll tear up the plants, and they'll tear up the pots and the plants, and they'll carry on. And I looked at him and said, "You got to be kidding me." I said, "They just do that just for mischievousness?" He said, "Yes." You know, whenever I was growing up, I don't know how you was, but whenever I was growing up, I didn't tear up a radio just to be tearing up a radio. Yeah. I would go into the radio and see what the radio was made out of, but then I'd try to put the radio back together again, and sometimes I didn't have enough sense to put the radio back together again, and then it was junk. But I didn't just purposely go out here and destructo stuff just to be destructoing it. Did you?
No, I never did.
We knew better than to do stuff like that, didn't we?
No, I knew better. If I tore something up at a store, I was expecting to get tore up when I got home.
Yeah.
And Daddy, gosh, I mean, you got in trouble. If you got in trouble at school, if you got a whooping at school, you better mark it down. You was fixing to get an ass whooping when you got home.
Whenever you got home.
And most of the time, it'd be a whole lot worse.
Yes, it was.
So,
but getting back to my dad, what made him the way that he was?
I don't know.
I think it was what went on in the war.
I don't know. Like I said, he was always just as nice and kind to me.
But you knew that he was brutal to his family.
I knew that he
was mean.
That he could be mean. You know, by what I'd seen of what he had done with Danny and Douglas and stuff, and I never did see him do anything to you or nothing. Of course, you was little.
Yeah.
You was little, dear.
Right. And by the time you got in your teenage years, you was already pursuing a different lifestyle, probably already dating and stuff like that.
yeah, of course, you was little. And I remember when Daddy used to run the school bus and stuff, and he'd come pick up you and Douglas. And of course, Danny at that time wasn't going to school, I don't think.
Did you ever hear about the deal whenever Dad shot all them chickens? I mean, whenever the dogs killed all them chickens and Dad shot them dogs and just kept them laying there, and your dad drove back past the property a little ways, and Danny asked him, said, "Well, how come you doing this?" He said, "Because I don't want all them children to see all that out there."
Yeah. But I don't remember. Of course, Danny at that time might have been at Pikeville during that period. I don't remember.
Where he got in trouble up here at Sharon
Yeah,
School.
when he got in trouble up there at Sharon.
Him and the Bradburys.
But I know he would pick up you, and he'd pick up Douglas.
He'd get the Cobles.
I don't remember him ever picking up David. David might have been too young.
He'd get David. But he'd also got Hopsine.
But he'd pick up the Cobles and
Hopsine.
Everybody down there around Hopan.
David Willis.
Yeah, he'd pick up all of them.
Yeah.
And
how well did you know Mike Willis?
Me and him grew up together and went to school together and stuff. And of course, Mike was pretty mean when he was young.
He got wild, didn't he?
Yeah, he was pretty mean when he was young. I guess he chilled out because he's living down on the Gulf now.
Yeah.
And stuff. But yeah, when he was young, he was pretty mean.
Who was heavy duty?
Oh,
what was his real name? Wasn't he a Miles?
gosh, I can't remember. I remember the name Heavy Duty, but I can't remember who it was. What was his name?
How many of the Harrisons did you know? Because there was a big family of them. There were like 9 of them.
No, more than that, about 13 of them.
It was.
Yeah.
You know this guy up here that cleans cars?
Yeah, that's Larry.
That's Larry. I guess they all still living, ain't they? And one of them's a preacher, ain't he? Ain't
yeah.
one of them a preacher?
Yeah, one of them's a preacher. Because I used to laugh at Rex. Tommy is the one that's a preacher.
How about whenever they'd have all them race cars down there on Sunday, down there at Hop-In Bridge?
Yeah.
You remember when they'd come down there and people be gambling down there? Sometimes they'd be gambling $500, $600, maybe $1,000 back then. You remember all that?
Yeah.
That's whenever Peggy Stone and Roy Stone run that thing down there.
We used to have it'd be me and Rex and Tim Wilson and I don't know, there was a bunch of us that would meet down there on a Friday night or Saturday night as far as that goes, and we'd meet another group from either Martin or Greenfield and we'd fight there at the River Bridge.
Yeah.
And Rex would toss them over the River Bridge.
Yeah.
And stuff as fast as they come.
Yeah. Rex was a good fighter.
Yeah, he was. He was a good fighter.
He was a real good fighter. Of course, he had them long arms.
Yeah,
that's why.
They always called him Arms, you know.
Yeah.
Because he had them long arms. He looked like a freaking monkey.
Yeah.
You know how his arms always hung down about his knees.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. He was a good fighter. I was always told the reason why he turned out to be that way is because they bullied him whenever he was a young kid growing up.
I don't know. Could have been.
They bullied him. And he turned on him. That's whenever he started fighting.
His daddy was his daddy was mean as a snake.
What was his name?
Dick.
Dick.
Dick Harrison was his name.
Is that the one we bought that house from? I think it was.
I don't know.
I think it was. We bought the house from a Harrison. I think it was Dick.
He was mean. He'd come in and he'd beat Rex's mama. Oh gosh. She'd have to call the cops to come pick him up. Oh, he'd beat the fire out of her.
Drinking.
Yeah.
Drinking. Wasn't nothing but a bunch of drunks down here at that time.
Yeah. He'd be drinking, and he'd beat the fire.
Oh, Jinx Wallace, he
out
drank.
of
He
it.
drank all the time. Connie
Yeah.
White drank all the time. There
Yeah,
wasn't
he
nothing but a
lived right
drunk.
down on the corner
Yeah,
from you.
wasn't
over
nothing
there.
but a bunch of drunks down there, was it?
Yeah, he used to live just right down on the corner of you over there.
What was that? What was that Ridgeway? Ted Ridgeway.
Uh,
Remember when we had that little house right there before you get to Bill Ramsey's? He turned that into nothing but a bar, basically. Well, this little place right here used to be a bar, didn't it?
yeah.
What was the name of this place?
Oak Park Inn.
Old Park Inn.
Yeah. Back in late 60s. Late 60s, I guess, was when it was
Did you
bought.
go to it whenever you was a teenager?
No, and I lived right beside it. Of course, it was already closed then.
Yeah.
And,
Who owned it?
Wade and Pauline Mitchell, they lived here.
Oh, really?
And he owned it.
Was it Wade and Pauline that built this house?
Yeah.
It was.
Wade and Pauline built this.
Have a pillow.
Well, they done
They
a good
lived
job
here.
on building it, didn't they?
Huh?
They done a good job on building it. I mean, it's still
But they
standing.
built this, and they had that up there. Well, Wade decided he was going to put that into a beer jar.
Ah, okay.
Well, my uncle,
Get out there.
Uncle George
Come on, get out there.
Mitchell,
Oh, yeah?
Go
that
on.
was his brother,
Here.
and he run it.
Okay.
He run it during that period, and that was a rough place.
It was.
Yeah, it was a rough place, and
Why they want to fight so much down in here? Huh? Just want to beat one another up.
yeah, I mean they had, oh gosh, they had shootings and everything else down there at that little building.
They did.
Yeah.
Of course, anytime there's alcohol, there's going to be everything else
Oh,
along
yeah.
with it.
Yeah,
You know
everything's
that.
gonna be involved.
Yep.
was something
Don
else.
Capps, how well do you know him?
Well, I know him pretty good. He was my football coach, and when I played football, and of course I had some classes under him.
Harvey McDaniel, how well you know him?
I didn't know him real good. He was principal
Yeah.
at the time,
Yeah.
and I didn't know him real good. Of course, I knew his daughters and stuff, and
Robinson's up there in Sharon. Did you know him very
yeah,
well?
I knew a lot of them.
He was a predominant guy, wasn't
Yeah.
he? Wasn't he with the guy that wound up opening the funeral home? Wasn't that Mr. Robinson? And one time used to be the mayor?
No, that wasn't Robinson. That was Gardner.
Gardner.
Bob Gardner.
Bob Gardner.
That he had the funeral home.
You know,
his
that's-
daddy was owned the funeral home, and then his granddaddy owned it before them.
I didn't know that. Who was he?
Oh, I don't remember what their names was.
So that thing's been around since basically World War II, hasn't it?
Oh, it's been around for years.
Since the 40s.
Bob's great granddaddy owned it and was a mortician. Well, Bob's daddy took it over whenever his granddaddy retired, and he'd run it for years. Well, then when he retired, Bob took it over.
And now they don't even have one.
And
Now it's
now
been
they don't
converted
have
over to a
one.
house. Now it's been converted to a house or something.
Yeah, it's
Apartment or
converted to
something.
I think somebody's living in there.
Yeah.
I think.
Would you have ever wanted to live there?
No, I don't think I'd want to.
How many dead people
As
you
many
think?
dead
How
people
many
have been
dead
in that
people you
place?
think went through there? 5,000, 10,000?
Oh man, there ain't no telling.
Every bit of 10,000 or 5,000, wouldn't you say?
There
5 or
been
10,000.
buckos of people
Every bit of that.
that's been in there.
And
I
my,
wouldn't
and my
want to
mark
be-
may be that may be a conservative mark. You know what?
That
Maybe
might
more
be a
like
historical mark.
maybe more like 35 or 40,000 dead people done went through there. I wouldn't want to
Man,
live there.
Ain't no telling. How
I
many
wouldn't want to
been
live
in
there. There's no way I'd want to live there. Live in a funeral parlor?
Yeah, I ain't no telling how many deaths that's been through that place. And, yeah, but Bob was the last one that had it.
Well, old
And
times
then Williams and them
old
bought
times is over with, ain't it?
Yeah, Williams and them bought it, and then they got rid of all of it.
How about
and
Jeter Thompson? How well do you know him?
I knew of him. I dealt with him a little bit.
How about Bill Warren?
Well, Bill Warren I did, because I used to work for him.
Did you?
He would, I used to build starters for cars and stuff for him.
Okay.
when he had the shop there at Hot Pan.
Yeah.
I don't know who lives there now.
How about Mr. Gardner? Do you know him very well? He used to work up here at the Napa place, over
Oh,
right
yeah.
next to the Three Sisters.
Yeah,
And then he also worked right there in town.
yeah.
Mr.
He had
Gardner.
one at Greenfield and he had one here.
Uh-huh.
Now.
Did you know him very well?
Yeah, I knew him.
He was a good guy.
Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy, he was a good guy.
Yeah.
He was straight up.
Yeah, I knew Jimmy real well.
The Three Sisters, did you know who those people was?
No, I never did know who they was. I always went to the restaurant, but I never did know who they was.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Jimmy was a good guy. Man,
The guy that run that truck stop down here at Sharon after Sonny Davis sold it, the guy with the hooks, what was his name? He lives now over toward Dyer. He got a bunch of cows.
I don't know.
Got a bunch of cows now.
And he owned what?
The truck stop there in Sharon.
The one where Shelton's is at, or
Yeah.
the other one?
Shelton's.
You know, there used to be two truck stops.
Yeah.
You had Shelton's, and then you had the
I
one
know.
that
I know. I'm not talking about that one.
what's his name had? Simmons had.
The one south of Sharon, going to Greenfield.
I don't remember who had that or nothing. I don't remember them.
Well, you do remember Sonny having it, right? Sonny
No, I
Davis.
don't remember Sonny ever having it.
Captain Hook.
Yeah.
You don't remember him and his
Yeah, I remember him.
son having it?
I don't remember them.
Gale?
I don't remember them having it.
They also had that truck stop north. They run it for a while, up above the Three Sisters.
I didn't know.
And then they also had a shindig, another.
I never did know who the Three Sisters were.
Also run a truck stop there in Martin, right there in front of the Top Hat.
But I never did know who the Three Sisters were. And I've ate there, I ain't no telling how many times. And that's where that church is at now.
What year was your dad born?
Oh, I don't know. Back in,
He was probably about my dad's age, probably back in the
probably
20s.
back in the 20s.
Yeah.
I don't remember when he was born.
Yeah, he straightened me out one time.
I don't remember when he was
Mr.
born.
Hazelwood straightened me out one time.
Did
He sure did. He smacked the heck out of me, man.
he? Did he?
He sure did. I mean, he hit me hard enough. I had basically a half broke jaw for about 2
Oh,
months.
really?
Every time I'd chew, it'd pop. It'd pop, pop. I was acting incorrectly. I probably wasn't but about maybe 11, 12 years old. But he stopped the bus and he come back there and he straightened me out.
Yeah, he stopped the bus one time on me. And he told me, he stopped the bus and he motioned for me to come up there to the front seat. Well, he had his hand laying there on the front seat. And when I went to sit down, buddy, he backhanded me and it knocked me plumb off the seat
Yeah.
and stuff.
That's the
Man,
way
he
them
hit
old timers
me.
done it back then.
Oh, man, he hit me and it rattled my brain, boy. I mean, he socked it to me now.
That's what he done to me. He hit me in the jaw. I was messing with one of them Coble girls at the time.
He done Mike Willis that way one time.
He did.
And actually, he kicked Mike Willis off the bus,
He did.
made him walk home.
He did.
And of course, J.M. come and talked to Daddy and wanted to know what was going on.
Right.
And Daddy told him, you know, what had happened and
Right.
all this stuff.
Right.
And J.M. said, that's what you should have done. And that was all that was ever said about it.
And JM handled it from there.
J.M. handled it from there. And
But if those
don't know what
if
JM
those school
done.
hey, if those school bus drivers was to do that to this day,
oh, they'd be in jail.
not only would they lose their job, not only would they go to jail, but they'd probably get sued.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't do that anymore.
If you even
I
touch
mean, if you have a teacher that can't even spank a kid and
the
stuff,
parents can't even discipline children no more. Did you know
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
Nope, they can't.
sure can't.
Nope.
And they wonder how come this country's turned out to be so wild. Well, whenever you raise up heathens, you gonna get heathens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How much you like being ready to go to Martin?
About 30 minutes.
What you got this out here for?
I'm gonna get rid of it. It's got a big cigarette burn mark in it.
Oh, really?
That was the one on Donnie's bed.
What are you gonna do with it?
Throw it away. You want it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it need washing?
It looks like a
Probably.
pretty good comforter, it looks like.
Yeah, but it's got one great big old hole in there. I could probably put an iron patch over it and keep going. But...
Let me see them boots that you said you had.
Oh yeah, let me get that. We're a 9. You wear a 9?
Depends on how the boot's made.
Let me see.
Yeah, it's a world of difference between now and what it used to be.
But look,
50 years
but
ago.
look at, you know, America has always went to one extreme to another. They went from beating their kids to where now you can't even look at them wrong.
Yeah.
And that we used to have to pledge allegiance every morning, and we
Yeah.
used to have prayer.
Yeah.
Remember, we had prayer,
Yeah, every morning.
and they took all that stuff out. And now we've turned into a heathenistic nation,
Yeah.
haven't we?
There's a world of difference between now and what it was.
We've turned into a
50,
heathenistic
60 years
nation.
ago.
America cannot hit a mediocre for some reason. They cannot hit the middle of the road. They either got to be on the far right or the far left. Like I said, they went from beating their kids to where now, if you even look at one of them wrong, you're liable to wind up with a
I
juvenile
gotta go back to work.
detention center.
I gotta go back to work.
Where are you going to work
Go
at?
back to work.
Yeah, somebody's unlocked one of the basement doors and they're trying to blame it on me.
Unlock it.
I locked the damn doors.
And somebody unlocked it.
Yeah,
You got to
now
go
I
back
gotta
and
go
lock
back. Yeah, because ain't nobody got keys to lock it.
it. Really? Well, kiss my ass.
Well, I guess you're going to go with her.
I guess. Might as well, because I got to go to Martin.
Yeah.
Well, I have to go from Martin to that. From
Well, good talking to you. I went ahead and documented this conversation.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I'm going to put it on my Facebook.
All right.
Let-
But just don't mention my name, man.
I won't.